Peace, family. Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. So good to see you here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. We are here talking about Gaza. Today is day 153 of Israel's war on Gaza. And every single day, as promised, we're going to continue to keep you covered with all the issues that mainstream media is ignoring, all the stuff that corporate outlets just refuse to discuss. That's what we're here to do. And we got updates, we got numbers, we got policy decisions, we got statements, we got all of it today. And I want to get started and let y'all know what's going on. At the same time, I want to shout out some people, especially people who are members of the channel. Monty, so good to see you, family. I always appreciate seeing you because Monty always says, "You got this," which always makes me feel inspired and ready to go. Moneybag Kafka. That name is so fresh. You should be like a rapper with that name. Moneybag Kafka. So good to see you. Aisha Mukhtar. Wa alaikum salam. E Muhammad. Ahla wa sahla, ya akhi. Omega. I was going to say Omega. Omega. Shout out to you. I appreciate you, my sister. Always good to see you. Always good to see you, man. Rosability said, I love when the notifications work. Yo, these notifications, man, people be telling me notifications sometimes don't be working, man. So I got to do something else to let y'all know because I really appreciate when y'all appreciate stuff, man. Bullet the Bunny said, uh-oh, choking up on us. I know, man. I just finished eating lunch a little bit, and I think I still had a little bit of the sushi, not fully chewed. I was so hyped to get on here and talk to y'all. I appreciate that, man. You didn't need to dress up for us. That's true. Y'all is family. I was coming off my other show. I said, I'm not going to change. I'm just going to do what I do. Nicole Thomas, shout out to you from Chicago. Claudia from SoCo, from Southern Cal. Love you. Appreciate you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh for Lou. Ham sandwich. Mustahil. Roy, you got the okay. So y'all getting them okay? They coming through. Odette, shout out to you. Appreciate you, my sister. Thank you for coming through. Same thing with you, Verena. All right, let's get it popping because there's so many things I want to talk about today that I think you all need to know about. Let's start, of course, as we always start off with the numbers. And the reason we start off with the numbers is because there's a long history of news outlets not listing the number of Palestinians who are killed. We can go all the way back to the war in Lebanon, where Edward Said and others had to literally line up outside, protest outside the New York Times office to get them to print the number of Palestinians who were killed in Lebanon. So it is not uncommon for those things to get ignored. And because of that, we're going to make sure they get covered. So far, that number is 30,800. Again, 30,800 Palestinians have been killed since the October 7th date. 72,198 have been wounded in Israeli attacks since October 7th. The death toll in Israel from the October 7th Hamas attacks stands at 1,139. Just important info that all of y'all should have at all times. Some updates for you. On Thursday, at least 5 people were killed in an Israeli bombing of a mosque in Jabalia el-Beled, which is in northern Gaza. A bombing of a mosque. Again, when we talk about the Geneva Conventions, you are not allowed to bomb cultural sites. You are not allowed to bomb hospitals. You are not allowed to bomb schools. You are not allowed to bomb churches. You are not allowed to bomb masajid. You're not allowed to bomb mosques. The only way you can bomb a mosque is if you can convince or persuade the international community that something else is going on. You have to be able to make the case that the protected status is gone. And the way to make that case is to show that this is now a military space and not a private civilian space. So what Israel does is they argue that everything is a military target. Because Hamas is everywhere. That's the narrative. Hamas is everywhere. They're hiding everywhere. They're in your closet. They're in your couch. They're in your mosque. They're in your hospital. They're at your radio station. So then when they bomb the place, they can justify it by saying it was a military target. Yet no evidence is presented to make that case. And even to the extent that evidence is presented, that doesn't absolve you of your responsibility to evacuate safely, to get people out. And if people stay, if people don't evacuate their homes, that doesn't mean you get to blow them up. You can't just say, well, I told you to leave and you didn't leave. If people stay, by law, they are not, that does not ipso facto make them participants in the military action. In other words, if they say, well, Hamas is in your house or in your let's say in your apartment building, right? Hamas is in your apartment building, so we're going to blow up the building. So y'all should leave. And then everybody says, we're not leaving. You don't get to just blow up the apartment building and say, it's not like, well, if you don't leave, then you down with Hamas. It doesn't work that way. That pesky thing called international law prevents that from working that way. And that's the thing that has to be understood. That's the thing that has to be understood. But it's another conversation for another time. A 15-year-old and a 72-year-old man have died in northern Gaza as a result of malnutrition and dehydration. That's according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Yesterday, I told you the number was 20 reported by the Health Ministry of people who had died from malnutrition and dehydration. And we always said those numbers are low. Those numbers are low because that just counts the people who make it into the hospital. That counts the people who made it into a place where they could evaluate their cause of death. But people are dying in their homes. People are dying on the way to the hospital. People are dying in refugee camps. People are dying in shelters. People are dying outside in the streets. Because remember, 1.7 million of the 2.2 million people in Gaza are unhoused. They've been dislocated. And so just because only 20 people died of dehydration and malnutrition, which is a wild number in and of itself in the last week or two, the number is actually quite higher. And now we see it's not just the babies, because they said, these are babies who may have been sick. No, a 15-year-old dying of malnutrition and dehydration, a 72-year-old man dying of malnutrition and dehydration. Come on. The South is dangerous. It's getting bombed. The South is dangerous. It's the target of ground attacks that are pending. It is the site of an unusually and unsustainably dense population. You can't do anything in southern Gaza because you got cities like Rafah, which are supposed to have 250,000 people, that actually got 1.5 million right now. But the North ain't getting no better. It's like they're bombing you in the South and starving you in the North. But to be clear, they're also starving in the South and getting bombed in the North. It's all things everywhere. Up to 300,000 Palestinians are believed to remain in northern Gaza after Israel ordered the evacuation of the region, including Gaza City, in October. Many have been reduced to eating animal fodder to survive. A week and a half ago, a 2-year-old died from eating bread that was made from animal feed. People are forced to eat animal feed to live. The United Nations says 1 in 6 children below the age of 2 in the North, suffers from acute malnutrition. We'll say that again. 1 in 6 children below the age of 2 in the North suffers from acute malnutrition. One in 6, y'all. This is not a game. This is not a game. The UN Humanitarian Office says that Israel granted access to only 6 of 24 desired aid missions to North Gaza last month. I'm going to say that again. There were 24 aid missions that were scheduled in North Gaza. They're going to bring 24 different missions to bring medicine, food, clothing, etc. to people. Only 6 were given access. So when Israel says we're doing all we can do, they're going to have to explain why 18 out of 24 humanitarian missions got turned back. Also, U.S. President Joe Biden announces an aid port on the Gaza coast maritime corridor, or he will announce that tonight. U.S. official tells Al Jazeera. As I mentioned to you last night, South Africa is requesting additional action, an immediate ceasefire order from the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, to prevent full-scale famine in Gaza. So again, when they went to the International Court of Justice, they made it very clear that we needed a stoppage of the violence in order to protect life. And the court said asked for a ceasefire, but they did a lot of other things. But now South Africa is saying, wait a minute, it's not enough. We still have not done enough, because if we don't have a ceasefire now, it's not just that people will get shot. It's not just that people will get bombed. People are getting starved. Food isn't getting allowed in. They say it's a security issue. And then you got food trucks and few people that are actually getting shot. And you got people who are getting shot waiting for humanitarian aid. We had a full massacre with 112 people killed for this reason. This is a crisis. Rockets fired from inside Gaza by Palestinian fighters are again activating alarms and defense systems in Israel. Sirens blared in Sderot in the western Naqab or western Negev and surrounding areas. Rocket alerts were also raised in Nahal Oz near the Gaza Strip, which has been a frequent target of attacks since the start of the war. Netanyahu promises an assault on all Hamas battalions, including Rafah. I would be clear. For weeks now, Netanyahu has said he's going to attack Rafah. Israel's going to attack Rafah. He talked about a ground invasion. He talked about killing. And people said, if you attack Rafah, if you attack Hamas everywhere, it's going to lead to a humanitarian disaster that may be irreversible. It's going to cause a crisis. Why? Because, again, you have a dense area with 1.5 million people in it. And then things slowed down. That talk was whittled down a bit. And people said, well, maybe Netanyahu is changing. Well, Netanyahu made an announcement. He ain't changed. He has renewed his promise to invade Rafah in southern Gaza. He said the military will operate against, quote, all of Hamas's battalions throughout the Strip, including Rafah. And I quote, whoever tells us not to operate in Rafah is telling us to lose the war, and that will not happen. He said this at a soldier's graduation ceremony at a military training base. At the same time, we will take vigorous action in the other sectors against whoever seeks to destroy us, including on the northern front. Whoever has not yet been convinced by our strength would do well to look at what is happening to the enemy strongholds in Gaza. Netanyahu claimed the fight against Hamas monsters, that's his language, monsters, will help prevent the next 9/11, and that, quote, the entire civilized world should support, quote, the Israeli army and state. So Netanyahu's being clear here, y'all. He has no intention of stopping. He has no intention of ending the assault on Gaza. He has no intention of leaving the north unassailed. He has no intention, of allowing the 1.5, 1.6 million people that are living in a space that is built to be 5 times less dense. He has no intention of letting up on them. The global community has to do something, family. The global community has to do something. A truce deal is what we're thinking about. And there's a spokesperson for the U.S. State Department who said obstacles to a truce deal between Israel and Hamas are not, quote, insurmountable, and that an agreement could still reach before Ramadan. For those that don't know, Ramadan is in Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is in 4 days, less than 4 days. Really 3.5, or maybe even 3 if you talk about over there. Ramadan is in 3, almost basically 3 days. So let's see what comes. Let's see what happens. I'm not confident. I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens, y'all. Any questions? Those are some of the big updates. We'll have more tonight. Tonight, I'll be doing office hours once again. We're also covering the State of the Union. So the first thing you'll see from me at 8:30-ish, or whenever President Biden starts to speak, is the State of the Union address. I'll do some live running commentary as he speaks. And at the end of the speech, I'll do a recap, a debriefing, etc. And then from there, we'll do office hours, which is a live Q&A session. And we may do another live session or a live commentary where we talk about whatever issues are going on in the world. It's super important. If there's a question here now, please let me know. Otherwise, we're going to get out of here. Everybody, I want to remind you that this channel works from your support. And so I'm grateful for all the support we've gotten. Every time you hit the like button, every time you leave a comment, every time you share the page, you are doing something to add to our our strength, and our reach. So just thank you, everybody. If you haven't hit the like button, make sure you do it now, or hit the subscribe button if you haven't done it. Become a subscriber to the channel. Like and subscribe don't cost you a thing, and they help us build and grow in all kinds of ways. On top of that, if you're so inclined, hit that join button. Hitting that join button allows you to become a member of the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, allows you to become a monthly subscriber for as low as $4.99, which allows you to give us financial support to help us build a studio, to help us pay for employees, to help us offer new possibilities and new content. I want to shout out Bullet the Bunny, who is down by law with us. Bullet the Bunny just gifted a Marc Lamont Hill membership. So hopefully whoever's in the room was able to grab one of those memberships, because that's so dope and so generous. And that's another thing some people like to do. And Bullet the Bunny also said, the U.S. is the worst run business in the world. What sense does this fake aid make other than as traps if we make over 100 arms deals since 10/7? WTF, I want my money back, fam. The money is the key. It's our tax money. And you're right. I don't know if it's the worst run business in the world, but I do know that this aid is a lot of smoke and mirrors. It allows the U.S. to look like they're doing something, to look like they're intervening in a crisis, when in fact we are creating the crisis. We are contributing to the crisis. We are intensifying the crisis, and we can't continue to do that. So that's a heck of a comment. It's so important. I love y'all. I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.